Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to episode 4 of the new Sandling Junction Build. So let's roll the intro and let's see what's been going on. Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back. Well, as I said at the first part, it is episode 4 of this build. And in the previous video on episode 3, you saw me ending up starting to plan and sort out bits of track for the underground fiddle yard. Well, in this episode, you see me go beyond the laying of that, and I'm afraid patience got the better of me, and I decided halfway through building these little bits that I was really wanting to see some trains running on the new build. So I decided to stop laying track for the time being. I wanted to look at the wiring, look at the addition of point motors, getting them all set up, how I would overcome certain aspects of using my second-hand points without, my second-hand cobalts without actually having to buy new bits and pieces. And I've also tested it all, got them all sorted out. And if you wait till the end of the video, you'll see some trains running on the new layout. Now, admittedly, it is only up and down about 8 or 9 feet, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm having fun. I can play around with the points, and albeit only through the handset. I haven't got a mimic panel set up yet and to switch button them. That will come in due course as well. But in the meantime, I'm just having a bit of fun. But I've done all of that. I want to show you that little bit of journey in this video. And as I said, if you stay to the end, you'll see those trains running, and for the very, very first time on the new build. And in the next video, I'm going to start doing some more track laying so we can actually make that experience even more pleasurable. So catch you all very, very soon. Enjoy this one. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, welcome back. Now what I'm doing here is planning all the rows that I need to put down on this hidden fiddle yard. The thing was that the original plan showed about 6 rows and one that goes straight along just behind me in the top part of this picture. But I'm always greedy, but I needed to make as many roads as I could here, so I decided to put a few more in, and that was made possible because I used down by the scissors there an asymmetric 3-way point, which does save a little bit of space and allow me to put an extra point or 2 in and gain that extra few rows that I was looking for. But what I've done is I've made all of them, tested the gaps between them, drawn out the where the tracks are going to be, cleaned up, and now I'm sort of preparing by measuring out and putting the cork down, not gluing it at this stage. I just need to know that I've got it all when I need it to go. It's all set up, cut and measured out and all these things. Just checking for where the point shapes are, and you'll also notice where I've got a curve. I'm slicing down longitudinally down the piece of cork strip so that I can bend it when I glue it, and it will bend around easy without cockling. Now what I'm doing is I'm going so far with each road. I'm putting some Copydex down, and I'm also doing the underside of the piece of track bed. Now the thing about that is a lot of people use Copydex as it's intended as an impact adhesive. In other words, you leave it for so long, and then when it's really tacky, you put the two surfaces together. Now I find that if you do that and you've got it wrong, there's no wiggle room. You can't play around with it. And here you'll see me using a couple of spare bits of track, just making sure that I've got the right gauge gap between each of the rows before I proceed. That way it is going to be set right. But if I've weighted it down and let it go off without checking it, I can't change it, not without ripping it all up again. So I put my glue down, I do the back of the cork, and then I almost straight away put the cork together with the base. Now it does move, and it can move if you're not careful, because obviously it's not in that contact form, but it still gives me that little bit of wiggle room to play around and make changes before it does go off hard. But what I've done here is I've done it in several little stages. I don't have enough weight to do the whole lot in one go. And I'm sort of just moving forward a bit at a time, let one lot go off, and then pick up the weights and carry on with the procedure. So that's exactly where we're going with this one. Okay, in this final part, I'm just reinstating those bits of track that I'd laid and made ready for the next operation, which of course is putting the track down properly. So yeah, I'm just making sure it all fits as I want it to. Before I get laying all of the underground, as it were, hidden fiddle yard, I need to get this asymmetric three-way point in. Now, these are a little bit notorious for putting down almost along the lines of a double slip in certain ways, but once you're there and done and dusted, of course, it's great, because these, in my opinion, are quite a space-saving point. In other words, I need to get these extra roads in, and the way to do that is with this. If I didn't, I would have here a normal turnout and here another turnout, and I would lose space. Albeit the simplest way of doing it, you're still going to be using 2-point motors whichever way you went, but this way you just gain a few inches extra because the extra turnout is here already. It's like 2 turnouts in one. Okay, so what I got to do now is I'm going to put that mark there, and hopefully, if I get this right, I'm going to set that up in the center and put in a very small drill, and hopefully I'm going to put a hole here. Don't go too mad, so that I can see what's going on. I'm going to put that down in through here. Hopefully that's made a mark. I'm not sure how good a one it has made. And I'm going to put in a little piece of wire to show where that is, and I have another one somewhere, if I can find it, to put in the other slot. And put that in place there, and hopefully that will be fine, and they will give me the mark that I need. Now what I have got to just do is mark the position of the frog wires. Now I'm going to use a pen to do that. This one comes out through here, and this one comes out through here, like that. And then of course we've got the feed wires. I'm very careful. I can get that back in like that, and then just lift off. Well, fortunately for me, there is enough of a hole there that I can mark that. I can see where that is, and this one equally is enough of a hole. Make sure I've got this in the right place. I think I've actually done this wrong. It's no problem. I had that frog the wrong way. They all come out the same side, so let's just make sure we've got those where they should be. And we're going to come in here quite simply and put a mark like that. Right, I'm going to use a slightly thicker drill to come through because those sleeves on the frog wires may impede on the smaller drills. So I'm going to drill through on here. I'm happy with that, and so I am now going to proceed and glue. Well, I was very careful because this has been glued before. I've been very meticulous about taking off any old glue. There still may be the odd little bit, but it'll be so fine, hardly noticeable. Now, as always, I'm going to just come in here and completely miss out that part there. Come down so far. I don't want anything near the switchblade operation, as it were. Coming down through here, I can see the shape that I've got almost up to the other one, not quite, missing it completely. There we go, that's them two. Now then, let's get these frog wires set up properly. So the first one, be very careful because you end up with a handful of wire that you wasn't expecting. That's that one. Now this third one, I think it was this one, or was it this one? It may have been this one. But one of these has got to go at an angle because there's a lump of wood under there. I think it's this one. Come on. There you go. Gently, gently, gently. There, good. Check that that is flush and where it should be. Move that up a little bit. There's a bit of a gap there. Over the hole, very, very nicely. Good. Everything seems happy. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to weight that down now, and we'll continue on with other areas. Right. Okay, so I'm so pleased that that three-way is done and out the way. What I do now is I mark the track where I want to put the droppers. Now, they're not attached to the track yet, but I've marked them, I've drilled them, and then I've gone away and I've soldered the droppers to the right points on each piece of track before I move forward. Now I'm gluing that track, having been satisfied that it's all right. I've glued the Copydex down and I've gone underneath the track, under each of them. And I've done enough just to do those first 3 rows. And what I now do is place everything where it should be. Get those droppers in place, put the track together, and like I do with the cork bed, I actually do not wait for the glue to get tacky, because if I get this wrong, there's just no wiggle room. So I prefer to get the glue down and working as fast as I possibly can, and then I can test for the gauge, test for the straightness, and best I can for each piece of track. I don't go too far ahead of myself. That you see there is enough, but I've checked the gauges. Everything's where I want it to be. I feel confident that I can just put some cork over the top of the rail and then get the weights down before I then think about moving on to the next stage. And that's what we're going to be doing. Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome back. Now, at the start of this video, you saw how I just finished off the underground fiddle yard that will sit beneath the top layer of this new build at Sandling Junction. And you saw in the video before the laser cutting one how I was prepping for laying that track. Well, now that's all down, but none of it is yet wired up. Neither is any of the track work that I started off laying initially. So I'm at this sort of point really, not quite sure where to go next, because yes, I've got tons of track to do all the way around here on this first incline coming back to the point down here. part of me wants to see a few trains running as well. So I'm at this impasse. Now, do I carry on and just keep land track, land track, land track, which ultimately I'm going to be doing? Or do I just have a bit of fun, break into that cycle and just start laying some of the electrics, the points and everything else that needs to be there before I can start putting trains on track, as it were? So what I felt that I would do, I've been assembling some of the stuff that I'm going to need. Now, some of this I already had, and things like the wire. Now, this will be forming my bus wire. This is the black and the red. It will be done in exactly the same way as any of my dropper wires. And this is 32 gauge. This is 32 strands per whatever. The droppers I used is 7 and the other one is 16 in between should I need that. But this is going to form my main bus wire. One of the things that I did do in the last Sandling Junction was when I got a fault somewhere, I had a real major trouble trying to find it. And I ended up chopping through my bus wires and adding connectors here, there and everywhere so that I could isolate things. So what I've decided to do now, and again, I'm going to get on with that, is I've bought some of these terminals, these push together terminals. These are 10 amp ones. You can buy 6 amp ones. I probably could have got away with the 6 amp ones. I don't know. But this is where I fall down with electrics, I'm afraid. But what I'm going to be doing is I think that I'm going to go for the fiddle yard that's behind the camera, the one you saw me just finishing off. That will come down to so far, and I will cut the bus wire. And I will put one of these on it. Now, these will remain permanently connected, but if I ever get a situation... the right hole, there you go. If I ever get a situation where I have a problem, a short, and I can't isolate it easily, then I simply have to pull one set apart, and if the fault goes, I know where the fault is. And it's a lot easier to fault find your layout if you can break this apart easily and isolate sections of your railway. So that's what I intend to do on this one. I'll have a separate one for this first incline. I'll have a separate bus section for this area in front of me, and going around the whole layout, and indeed for the upper layout when that starts to happen. So in an endeavor to try and be a little bit more like Charlie, I have tried to get together an assembly of things like these. These are stick-on, 3M stick-on cable ties, so I can control where the cables are, I can route them through. These ones are nice because they are, just open the packet here and pull one out to show you if it will let me get in there quite easily. I hope it will. Probably not so easily. Let's just grab one anyway. But these, I think, are able to be used, reused. I don't know how well they will go, but I think that these will hold your cables in, and I'm hoping that they will do the job. Although having looked at them now, I'm unsure if they will actually meet my needs. And if they don't, they didn't cost a lot, and I'm sure I will find some use for them if I can't use them for that. What I've also done is I bought a lot of these. Now, these I used on the first Sandling, and again, they're 3M tapes. You can put them in a whole raft of different routes to channel your wires around the layout. And they have 2 sets of cables, different sizes. Well, I don't think I'll probably use many of these. If I do, they'll all be chopped down. But these didn't cost very much either. And these will do probably the majority of this layout overall. What I've also done, again, this is, I've got to say, from Chadwick's previous, Charlie's previous videos, where he's used these connectors. Now, I bought them in advance because they're not always available, and I just wanted to have them on tap. How I will use them there, I'm not too sure. But when I did my original Sandling, I used these exclusively on to connect the bus wire and the droppers, and I think I have a whole load of these in stock now. these cable connectors, you simply feed them over and feed your wire to be, whether they're the black or the red, whichever it is, doesn't matter, and they simply crimp on. And I've never had a failure, touch wood, I've never had a failure with these. I've had some mishaps clamping them where I bend this over and it doesn't do the job properly. You just simply take it off and do it again. But that's just me and working upside down underneath the table. So I'm hoping that these will all be sorted out. Now, the first job that I've got to do is probably sort out my Cobalt IPs. Now, I have over 90 of these, or about 90 of these from the first Sandling Junction. And not all of them were in use at all, but I got very close to that number. I actually bought the extra ones when I was doing the Island Peninsula. Many of you remember that fiasco. And I have fond memories of chopping bits of wood and hitting my eye with those and all sorts of horrible things. But anyway, enough of that. I'm needing to put these again in place underneath the new layout. Now, I'm not going to need all of them. I only need about 37, 38 possibly. And others came off with bits of wood, and indeed some came off with some of that surface completely missing. Now, you can do one of two things. You can quite easily go and buy new pads, basically, and I think they're about £1 each. They work out. I think some places like I would go to Coastal DC. Kevin, he's got these, I think about £10 a pack for 12, so that's slightly cheaper. And you can take these old ones off, replace with new ones, and go from there. Now, that's one way. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off as many that are full pads, as you can see through here. And then I'm going to use some 3M, which is very, very thin, double-sided tape. It's only really to hold it in place. Whether or not there is a full pad there is not totally needed. You need something there because it's a dampener, and it also means to say that it's easier for this to work, and it's the right distance from everything else, and you probably already cut them if you've got them from before anyway, so you want it in about the right place. So what you need to do with this, and I sat and done it last night with some of them, you'll notice that these ones are still thrown to the left or to the right. So before you start fitting them, you really need to have them centered. And the way that you do that is that whatever controller I'm using my earlier NC power cab for this job, and I'm simply hooking up the power cab directly into the points power feeds for black or red. Doesn't matter which way around you do it, but you simply go onto the handset and you dial in, you put this part here to set there. There's a little switch there, as many of you probably know if you've got one, but you set it to set, and that means to say it's now able to be programmed by your control system. As I say, I'm using an NCE system, but whatever system, it will have its own method in which way you will do that. So you send the signal to this through your handset 199 and enter. You do it twice. But with the NCE, there comes up a different command. So you do 199, enter, and then it gives you a 1 or 2 to hit. And I found that you really need to do 1. So if you do 1 and then repeat that exercise, so you do 199, enter, hit the 1, and then you flick this back to the run position. So if the thing was up like that, it would be the position closest to the top. I've got it upside down, so it's, in a sense, it's down. So you put it back to the run position, and then you turn your whole handset off. Wait for it to die, and then turn it back on. And then what happens is that this will move there and across, and then come back and center itself. Now the thing about that is then you can now put this wire through your point through here and have it centered for when you come to fix it. So you need to get all of them centered, and once you've done that, you just go back in and repeat the process, but you give it a command of 198, and that takes the centering out of action. Well, you need to do that. So there's two operations to make this fully functional in the future on your layout. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can either put your point facing this way on here, or this way on here. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but you can, as you've got this centered, you can put that through the hole, keep it centered, and then just mark your holes or literally go through them. Now, as long as you've got this in line with the track, it's not a real problem. However, there is a slightly easier way of doing all of that. Now, up at the Get Show, a very kind gentleman who'd been making some jigs commercially, and he approached me up at the Get Show and said, would I like to play with these on my new build? And it's from Scenic 3D, and I put all his details in the Show More tab underneath this video. But basically, these are prescribed jigs, and they are for different things. Now this one is for a double slip. This one is for a asymmetric three-way. This one is for one of the other ones. I'm not sure, I've got to look at the packet. But this one here is pretty much for all conventional points. Different turnouts, doesn't matter, but even the curve point will go on here. So the idea is with this, very much in the same way that I did with the holding the cobalt over the top. There you can see where the center mark should be, and the hole for your point motor. Now that's quite a small hole, and I use a 10mm hole underneath my points just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. But the idea is that you can now put this whichever way you want it to go, I guess, but you can put that on and slide this between the switch blades on the point, and then sit it over the hole, and it will grab onto the track. Now if you have, and I have to one side, and I will do this on camera, is that you've got that ready. You know, let's make sure I have got it ready. There we go. Now that is on. I can see the hole there, centralized. The blades are central in the track, and then simply come down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've used an old Imperial 3/32 drill bit. It's one that I have from my father because he was into all of that sort of stuff. Point motor underneath that has been centered. I can put it up through, and you don't even need to have sticky tape on here if you really don't want to. That is set up with a double-sided sponge tape that you can peel it off, put it in place from underneath, hold it there while you get organized with the screws. But we've pretty much achieved all of that with this right now. We don't really need to. If I do any, I put a very, very thin 3M tape on there, which I bought recently. Hi guys, welcome back. Now, as I said to you just now, if I found a workaround to being able to adhere these points to the underside while I screw into the prepared holes, I would tell you all about it, and I have done. But it's not going to be for everyone, and you'll find out why right now. Because as an artist, I work in so many different mediums, and one of the mediums I work in is pastels. And pastels, I usually use a very fine paper called UART paper, but it's very flimsy, and often or not it will curl up on you, and it causes all sorts of problems. So what a lot of people do use it is they buy a double-sided film, cut it to the size of their paper, and adhere that to a piece of prepared MDF. That's what I do with it. I've forgotten all about it. I've forgotten that I got this roll. This is the stuff. I can give you some details on it in the description underneath, but basically, what does that tell you? It's just a mounting film. Now, you may even be able to find that somewhere so that you can use it yourself. But I would say that it would be a lot more expensive than a few pounds on replacement pads that these would cost you. So at the end of the day, I'm only winning because I actually have something here that I can win with. Otherwise, like most people, I'll probably be buying packets of 10, depending on how many I needed for the layout that I'm using. Oh, all right, fella. Yeah, I don't want your ball. No, don't want your ball. I know. Go on, don't drop it on my face either. Go on, hey, go. Good boy. Good boy. I know. Ah. I don't want your ball. No! Don't you drop that in my face, will you? Hey? Go on. Yeah, I know. It's not very nice outside, eh? Is it? I know. I know. Go on. I know. Go on. Out you go, mate. I've got to get on. No, don't get. That's a sneaky way. Hey, don't lay there. On your bed. Good boy. Okay, ready? So what's been going on? You saw the track being laid earlier on in this video, and it doesn't appear that much has changed. Well, it actually has. A lot of work's been going on. I actually spent 2.5 days underneath the layout so far, getting it all set up so I could, as you probably guessed it, run some trains. And there are now trains running on the new Sandling Junction, albeit about 6 or 8 feet along and then back again, but at least they're running, and that is an absolute ace in the hole for me. But I have been testing the tracks, but moreover, as I say, I have been underneath and I have been wiring up all the tracks and the points and the point motors and getting all the droppers in place. What I've actually gone for is two bus wires, two 32 strand bus wires, the thicker of the cables that we tend to use in model rail, and they have been cut at sectional points. Where there's a join here on the layout, I've actually cut them and I've used these push connectors. Now I don't know if over time they are going to be reliable. Long run, it may be that in time I will find a better way. But what I would then do is either extend wires if they're too short, or indeed I've left quite a bit of slack where they do join, so I should have enough to play with. And by having pluggable connectors that you can see if something is working or not working, and if the fault exists, you know it's not there, it's somewhere else, and you just keep working through the system until you isolate the area, which is a lot smaller than trying to work your way through the whole of your layout. So I learned that lesson from the old Sandling Junction. I never employed it in the old Sandling Junction. By default, when a fault developed, I ended up cutting into the bus wire, and I only had the one bus wire at the time. So in this one, I've learned from that one. I think that's what we all do, don't we? When we go on, we either learn within the layout that we're doing or working on, or indeed if we go from one layout to the next, we take everything we learned in the first and we move on to it with the new one, and we put all of those things we've learned into the new one, and dare say that repeats itself if we ever go on beyond that. But anyway, so I have spent 2.5 days underneath here. I have tried to make it as neat as I can, laying underneath these tables. I remember how painful it was in the first Sandling Junction. These are a little lower, but with back support, I can actually sit upright and work on parts of it or most of it without laying down and looking up. And that was the problem in the last layout. But this one is a little easier, gotta say. But I still spent an awful long time connecting cables and putting it all together and trying to make it as neat as I can. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to use the 3D Scenics, the 3D Scenics jigs. Now, the gentleman's name is Jeff from 3D Scenics, or Scenic 3D. I probably got that wrong too. But a lovely gentleman, and I talked to him earlier because I wanted to just clarify a couple of things with him. But I've been using what he calls the universal one, which is just a simple one aspect that does all your normal points. You know, your left or right hand turnouts, express, medium or small. It does all your curve points and all of that. But these are more specialist jigs that he does for three ways, asymmetric three ways, and indeed this one, I think it's this one, or one of them I've got hold of to do the double slips or the slips. Now, I wanted to do the double slip with you on film so that you know how they work and how easy they are to work and how useful they can be. But even if you don't have double slips to lay or even asymmetric three ways to lay, you will probably end up having one of the smaller ones that he sells that will do you for all of your regular points. You only need the one, and he does them for tortoise motors as well as N-gauge, as well as the Cobalt series, which is what I use. So, okay, so I can see that the holes in here are there, all sorted out, ready to go. Now I've just got to determine which one it is. I've got the hole on this one under here, under this side. I think I have the other hole there. Now which one is that under? Yes, so I actually did these two on this side. So that's where my holes have been pre-drilled. So the areas that I've got to concern myself with are here and here. Now these are lined up over the right place. I've now got to decide which of these holes I drill to make sure that they are in the right place. Now, I'm a little concerned with such a complex and a very expensive point that I don't want to start drilling through any of these areas. Now there's one here and here, and here and here. And I think I'm just going to show you where the point is actually going to sit underneath, so you can see correspondingly where the holes need to be drilled. So we have two here, which will sit there. The other two are these two here. Now what concerns me is this one, and possibly some of these others, but certainly this one in particular. If I just gently lift this up, I'm worried about going through the right place here and through any of this material here. Now I am assured that none of this is affected. This is nowhere near any rail, or is it indeed any vital parts of this. Sometimes it may hit a sleeper. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit, because I don't want, and I'm sure it don't, but you know what I'm like. I do something and I think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So I don't want to do anything wrong. But first and foremost, I've got to change the drill because it's too big for these holes. But what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to drill this one and this one, this one and this one. They miss, sorry, this one and this one, this one and this one. And I'm going to do them in that fashion so that A, there's more distance between them and they don't hit anything. And at the same time, I'm just going to drill the two. And from the two, once this is all screwed up underneath, I can then exactly work out where these other two are. And because they're not coming all the way through the baseboard, I have no worries about damaging anything underneath this jig. But this jig works well because it's telling me exactly where to drill even just the two that I want to use. It will tell me exactly where they've got to go. And so that even if I don't want to do these ones and these ones for fear of any damage, and I'm sure, as I say, I've got to keep saying this, I'm sure it doesn't. And I'm sure people will have used these all over and said, no, Paul, what are you on about? It doesn't do anything wrong, but it probably doesn't. But I'm just me, and I'm just going to draw these two here and here just to make sure. And then I will just pilot drill from underneath once the point is in place, and that way I can be sure that there's nothing coming through. Mark the wood and then go through with my drill afterwards, which is quite handy. Okay, let's take that off. So yes, and I have a hole there, making sure what's coming through there. Oh, isn't that typical? Look at that. Well, that hole there, I wonder why it was going down. That's where the frog is going. So that is not able, in my opinion, to be used, obviously, because that's taken up with the frog. So I have to change plans. I'm going to stick with these two because I think the other frog is coming out in a different point over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose these two holes here. So I'm going to go one side with one. Okay. So now we have two new holes. I'm going to disregard these ones because, as I said, that is exactly lined up on the frog wire. Something, a little exercise worth doing, because it told me to be a little wary on these slips because of where the frog point is going through here and here. So ideally I may have, if I'd thought about it, nothing to do with the jig, but had I chosen opposing sides to the frogs to make the point motor holes, i.e. instead of here, and this one is in the right place, so opposing sides, that would have avoided the frog here and here. So where I come to put the screw in would not be getting in the way of the frog cable. Hi everybody, and welcome back. Now before I get on with those last few points at this juncture and probably close the video off, I wanted to show underneath and what I've been up to for the last few days over the last weekend. Now up here I've got a couple of looms working. I've got two bus wire setups, and they are 32 core, 32 strands of wire. I think that's 0.2 of a mil each one, so it's 32.2. And I've used red and black, and they have gone, well, there's no points beyond there anyway, so this is all the fiddle yard that's up there. And one wire goes around there as the loom, and all my droppers are in 7.2, which is 7 strands of 0.2 mil wire, and that's the thinnest that you would probably want to use and most commonly used for all droppers. Now you'll notice also I use the Scotch clips. They do work, and I have never ever had a problem with using them. They've never failed on me in terms of connectivity, unless you don't squeeze that grommet closed enough. There you go, guys. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to get the other bit finished, and next time you see me, I think I will be playing with trains up and down a little bit, and if there's enough room, we'll put a little bit more track laying on at the other end. Catch you all soon. Bye.